Good Monday morning, everyone. Hope your start of the week is going well. I know a lot of you guys have the day off. It is a holiday today, so hope you have some fun with it. And we got a playoff game tonight that is of particular interest to us Seahawks fans, so I'll probably be streaming during it at some point, so we'll definitely have some interesting stuff to potentially talk about. And yeah, we'll definitely keep tabs on our division rivals tonight, but this video is not about that. This video is about the upcoming offseason for the Seattle Seahawks. And yesterday morning, we got a little bit of news from Chris Mortensen. Not really news, though. We already knew. We already knew what was up here, I think. I told people a couple of days ago that it was pretty clear that this was going to be what happens. But Chris Mortensen's tweet here basically just guarantees it at this point. So if you were holding out some kind of hope that we would be moving on from Pete Carroll or John Schneider this offseason, it's time to put it away. It's time to figure out some other way that this team can compete for a Super Bowl in 2022. Chris Mortensen tweets, Seahawks coach Pete Carroll and GM John Schneider met Thursday with owner Jody Allen, but a well-placed source said it was usual end-of-season review, a look ahead, and no job security talk. All systems are go with Carroll, Schneider, and QB Russell Wilson, source said. So, if there was any tiny part of you that was hoping that he might retire before, or be fired or quit or whatever, seems like it's a pipe dream at this point. I guess he could wake up one morning and decide, you know what, I don't feel like doing this anymore, but he's coming back as of right now. Schneider also coming back. And it's also implied within this tweet that the only other major piece that you could theoretically move on from in 2022 is not going to be moved on from. Granted, we won't know about this for a few more months. Things can happen in the next few months, but this tweet seems to imply that Russell Wilson is also going to be brought back in 2022. So, no big changes. I'd go so far as to say no medium-sized changes either, because at this point, most of the stuff you can do, it's not going to radically alter the makeup of this team. So, the major power brokers in Seattle are coming back for another season in 2022, period. So that being the case, here's what I'm going to say. Those power brokers in 2022 do something different. And that goes for all three of them, Pete Carroll, John Schneider, and Russell Wilson. Those are the three main, maybe not Schneider, we don't know exactly what Schneider does, but obviously his theoretical role in this organization is huge. If we are indeed bringing those three guys back for the 2022 season, then we need them to start making different decisions. Those are the guys who have the biggest amount of influence in whether or not this team wins, in whether or not this team has success, whether or not this team competes for a Super Bowl. So, if the team is not going to change those decision makers, then we need the decision makers that we have to start making different decisions. Because we are now in year 7 of a streak of not making the NFC title game. And I would say of the last 7 seasons, 6 of them have ended in a way that have made a majority of the fan base disappointed. I would say that the only season in the last 7 that ended in some degree of happiness from the fan base is 2018. Just making the playoffs that year felt like an accomplishment. So, if you're going to bring this crew back for an 8th year, just try to do things differently. And I know that sounds simple, but we know it's not. Pete Carroll is 70 plus years old. He's been coaching in the NFL for decades. He's been coaching football in general for decades. Been around the block, and he's had success. This isn't like an Adam Gase thing where the dude's had no success. No. Carroll's had success. He's won a Super Bowl, won a national championship, done great things as a defensive back coach over his career, a defensive-minded coach. Had a lot of success. Maybe, quite possibly, Pete Carroll is the greatest defensive back coach in the history of the NFL. So, to expect him to suddenly, decades into his coaching career, at the very tail end of it, mind you, go, you know what, all these things that I've been thinking for these last 40 plus years, they're wrong. I'm going to reevaluate the way I think about things. I'm going to change the way I do things. I don't think it's very likely. That's why I wanted to move on from him at the end of the day. But if you want this team to compete for a title in 2022, I think it's your only hope. So all we can do is cross our fingers that Pete Carroll, if he's going to continue to be the key decision maker with this organization, will start making decisions differently. And John Schneider, for whatever power he has in this organization, hopefully we see the same thing. Maybe the decision making needs to be moved more towards John and less towards Pete. Maybe that's the fix. And of course, when the games start, you're going to need your quarterback, Russell Wilson, to make different decisions on the field. Those are the three main power brokers in this organization. And if they do things differently, we can have success. And whether or not we see that success, whether or not we see those different decisions, is going to be determined very quickly here in the offseason, I think. We've got like a month worth of playoff left. The Super Bowl is going to be in about a month, and then the offseason is going to start pretty quickly. And the team is immediately going to throw themselves into trying to figure out what they want to do with their outgoing free agents. They've got a long list of players who have their contracts expiring, I think, in March. And they're going to be deciding who to pay and who not to pay. And right away, we're going to be able to, I think, determine whether or not this team is going to change their philosophy and their decision-making. And what I mean by that is, DJ Reed, I love you. You're a great player. You're awesome. But I can't pay you the big bucks. Sorry. Quandre Diggs, same thing. Exact same thing. Great player. I love him. Great part of this team. He helps this team win. He deserves to get paid. But it can't be this team. All right? We are trying to make it work with a franchise quarterback at about the tail end of his prime. You know, you see he's going to be 34. He's going to turn 34 in the middle of next season. So we're starting to push it a little bit. We're starting to get to the point where he might be diminishing. But he's still potentially really, really good. He's been really, really good in recent memory. So in order to try to make it work, because we can safely say that the last season and a half, it hasn't worked that well, you got to make your investments in places that are going to directly assist him. So DJ Reed, I see him getting like a 3-year, $30 million offer. I can't do it. Quandre Diggs, I could see him, granted he did just break his leg, he might get a similar offer. I think you're looking at 3 years 33 or 3 years 36, personally. And again, I can't do it. You've already invested too much into this defense with all these draft picks. It's time to look in the other direction when figuring out where to allocate resources. This is our last chance. If we bring back Wilson in 2022, it's the last chance to make it work. So that money, I need that money to go towards this offensive line. I need this money to go towards running backs. So I'm sorry. Unless DJ Reed's willing to come back for like 3 years, 19 or 20 million, and I guess if Diggs was willing to go for like 3 years, 24 million, then maybe I would reconsider. But if they want what I think is fair market value for them, you got to shake your head. You can't do it. Because you're the defensive back guru. Find cheap options out there, or find young options in the draft and make it work with them. Earn your money that way. And then you're going to have decisions on guys like Bobby Wagner. He's going to be due about $20 million in 2022. If you're really trying to make this work with Russell Wilson, there's no way you can bring him back at that price. You cannot be giving Bobby Wagner $20 million. You can't be giving him $10 million if we're being honest. You can't even give him $8. Honestly, I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. I don't think I would take Bobby Wagner back in 2022 if he wanted to play for free. But at the very least, if you do bring him back, he cannot be making more than $5 million in 2022, period. All right? There's a limited number of resources to go around. You need to understand where you need to start investing it. The area that you have not done a good job investing in for years now. And look, if you do make these decisions, if you do let DJ Reed go and go cheap at cornerback, maybe you bring back Sidney Jones, you got Trey Brown, maybe you bring in another cheap guy, and you let Quandre Diggs go, and maybe you go with the rookie at free safety, or you roll with Marquise Blair, whatever, and you let Bobby Wagner go, and you don't pay Rasheem Green, which is another interesting decision, and I think it'll be telling whether or not this team is willing to switch their priorities a little bit. Then you turn around and use those resources on the offensive line. You bring in a Teron Armstead. You bring in an Austin Corbett. You do those things. And if you put that line in front of Wilson and he still doesn't get it done, then there won't be any Russell Wilson defenders left. There won't. We will all, as one, agree that he's not the guy that we were hoping that he was. That he's not that good, and that he simply cannot perform at the highest possible level that we were hoping he would be able to when we gave him that contract. And then we'll kind of come to an understanding that, hey, maybe Pete isn't really the problem here the way we were thinking. We used to get on Pete all the time for not unleashing Wilson, not letting Russ cook, running the ball too much. Well, if we give Wilson a great offensive line on top of the great receivers that he has, if we give him a great running game, if we give him no excuses and he still can't get it done, then you're not going to see the Seahawks fans divided on this issue. You're not going to see a bunch of fans going, oh, Wilson sucks, get rid of him. And then you have a bunch of other fans going, no, Wilson's great. It's the offensive line. It's this, it's that. It's all these other things. You're not going to see that. If you make a genuine effort to address these problems that we've been having for a while now, and you do it by cheapening out on your defense a little bit, then the fan base will see that, and we will come to terms with whatever result ends up occurring at that point. So that's mostly the Carroll stuff. When you're trying to figure out what to do this offseason, looking at the list of outgoing free agents, looking at some of the guys you can let go, I understand that you love Quandre Diggs. I understand that you love DJ Reed. But you're the defensive back guru. You've already used up your bullet by giving Jamal all that money and trading for him. That's already a little bit ridiculous. Now, granted, I think Jamal Adams is an excellent player, but if you're the defensive back guru, should you really be spending that much capital and that much money on a strong safety? Shouldn't you be going cheap there, maybe? That makes sense to me, but you've already done that trade. We can't undo it. I understand, blah, 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 whatever. So I can't be bringing in an expensive cornerback and an expensive free safety and have all that money going to that spot. The only big resources this team should spend on defense this offseason are 5-tech and 3-tech. Bring in a better pass rush from the 5-tech and the 3-tech, and then maybe the cornerback spot and the free safety spot won't matter as much because you're actually getting to the quarterback. But I don't want to see big money being spent on some of these other spots, period. The money needs to be going towards this offense. Give me a new left tackle. Give me a center. Give me better running backs. And give Wilson no excuse. That's basically what I'm going for here. So if this offseason starts, if you start hearing that the Seahawks are going to bring back Dwayne Brown on a 1-year, $5 million contract to start at left tackle because they want to go cheap there, if you're hearing that we're giving Posick another $3 million to start at center, then you will know that not only are the same people being brought back to make these decisions, but you will also know that they are not changing the way they're making decisions at all. That they are just going to try to do the same stuff they did in 2021 and probably produce a pretty similar result, I would say. They'll have an offensive line that is okay. It's up, it's down, it's inconsistent from week to week. It's here, it's there. They're going to try to build the defense with a great secondary, and it's not going to matter as much as it should because you for some reason value the secondary over the pass rush. You spend all your money on defensive backs and you don't have enough for these other things, and you're just going to go, okay, Wilson, we don't feel like we should have to invest in the offense because we invested so much in you. And we know how that ends. Let's try something different. All right, I'm going to get out of here, guys. Peace out. Go Hawks. Thank you for listening. I will see you guys later today, but that is the primary theme for me of this offseason. Don't give a bunch of money to defensive backs. Find a way to go cheap there. Splurge on the offensive line. Get some good running backs in here. Get Bobby out of here. And I think you have a chance. See you guys later. Go Hawks.